Hi, my name is Devin Broughton, and this is our last episode of Jimmie Connections for the season. And today I am here with Bob Badal. Bob, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am originally from Chicago. I grew up there as a child. I like to say I grew up on the streets of Chicago because I was very free to go wherever I wanted from a pretty early age. And with public transportation in Chicago, that meant everything from downtown to museums to the lakefront. And so I felt very good about my experiences growing up there. Went off to college and graduate school and wound up in Moorhead, Minnesota with my first college teaching job. And that was my introduction to small town life, which of course most people around here don't think of Fargo-Moorhead as small town, but for my wife and I it was.
So what was that like transitioning from Chicago, huge city, to a more rural area such as North Dakota?
Well, it was pleasant. It was cold. I'll never forget the first time it was bitter cold, and we went to the grocery store, which at that time was Hornbacher's in Moorhead, and we drove into the lot at about 8 at night when it was pitch black, and we noticed something remarkable that we would never have seen in Chicago. And that was a parking lot full of 100 and some cars, all of which had the engines running and the keys in the car with the doors unlocked. And we looked at each other in amazement, and I said to my wife, if we were back home, a gang would have every one of these cars out of here in less than 5 minutes. And here people trust each other, and they're willing to do that. And, you know, so the idea of small town life, the caring community, we'll watch your children when they're playing outside kind of thing, that really caught our attention. And that was one of the reasons why we stayed in Minnesota as long as we did and left eventually. But then when I had a call one day, are you interested in a job in North Dakota? And I said, I don't want to work at another public university ever again. And they said it was a private school. And I said, is it Jamestown? They said, yes. I said, yes, I'm interested. So then we came back.
So you went to graduate school, correct?
Right.
And you got your doctorate.
Right.
What do you have your doctorate in?
My doctorate is in theater.
Theater?
Yes. I was an undergrad English major with a real interest in dramatic lit. And I decided to go on for my master's and PhD in theater because I wanted to approach the literature as from a production viewpoint. And so I was very fortunate. I was able to go to one of the best theater schools in the country and learned a lot about drama, and I thought that I would spend the rest of my life teaching drama. As it turned out, I wasn't a faculty member for that many years, and one day they waved a wand over me and I was a dean. I hadn't even been a department chair. So, I mean, I just really felt like my opportunity to teach, I was taken from that pretty early in my career.
So as a theater major, you're probably very familiar with Shakespeare. What is your favorite piece done by Shakespeare?
Oh, I don't know. I find it hard to pick one of anything, whether it's my favorite Greek play, my favorite Shakespeare. I am very interested in Richard III, which to me presents the most villainous creature to ever walk on the stage. I really love The Tempest. It's such a magical piece. And I'm also very fond of Midsummer Night's Dream. And I've seen probably 40 or 50 Hamlets, and I do always enjoy Hamlet because it's just a tremendously complex and interesting play.
So we have a Shakespeare event going on campus right now that we've had a Shakespeare event for every month that we've had here during the school year. How much of a leading hand did you have organizing these events?
I did none of the work, but I will say this. A friend of ours, actually a neighbor from our Wisconsin lake cabin, is a teacher in Minneapolis, an English teacher, and she's involved in a program for teachers at the Folger Shakespeare Library in Washington. And she told me that the Folger was doing a folio tour, a first folio tour of Shakespeare to commemorate the 400th anniversary, and that there was a way of applying. Each state was going to have the opportunity to host the folio. So I came back to campus and I sent a note to 8 or 10 of our faculty, including Phyllis in the library, and the next thing I knew, they were all pretty excited about the idea of applying for the grant. And Phyllis did most of the work, and I encouraged everybody, and then we didn't get the grant, but Phyllis said, you know, there's so much enthusiasm, this is such a great thing, we can do it without a grant. So we bought a facsimile copy of the folio for our library, and we're doing our own 400th anniversary, and that's how it started, and the faculty have done a great job putting it together.
Nice, lots of work put into that.
Yes, it was a lot of work by quite a number of people, and I think they're going to try to keep this idea of a theme year alive. Next year, I don't know if they've settled on a theme, but they're going to try to do something like this every year and ask different people to contribute.
So now you mentioned earlier that one of the schools before waved a wand over you and poof, you were a dean. What was it like, or let me rephrase that, what made you want to go into education administration?
Yeah, I never particularly wanted to go into educational administration. I think partly because people, for whatever reason, I enjoyed the higher ed governance system. In other words, being an active faculty member, working on curricular issues. I found as a faculty member, I did really enjoy participating in those kinds of discussions and activities, and I've always been kind of interested in the larger picture, not just what I'm doing day to day, but the place that I'm in and how is it doing and how can I make that move forward at a better clip. And then the other thing I'd have to say is you're influenced by the people around you, and I had mentors and deans and department chairs who, for whatever reason, they just encouraged me to think about this kind of thing. And then as an arts person, administration is always in your blood. Whether you're a painter, a musician, a director in the theater, there's always that element of you have to either sell your art, you have to sell your performance, you have to get tickets, you have to get grants. You become a very multi-dimensional individual because of being associated in the arts. And you probably have figured this out, Devin, because you're involved in the arts. So I think that makes it easier, surprisingly, for people in a field like theater to go into administration, because it's you have to do everything if you're in the theater, and that's kind of the way it is if you're a dean or a college president.
All right, so as president, what are the duties that you have from a day-to-day basis?
Well, I think day to day I don't really have anything to do. But year to year I have some enormous goals that I need to find a way to accomplish. Whether it's, some of it is fundraising related, some of it is building related, some of it is program related, and some of it has to do with the professional development of the people around me that I'm responsible for, and the board relationships that I have, because the board and the president are hand in glove planning the future of the institution. So strategically, I have to spend most of my time thinking about the future, communicating about the future, making sure that dreams are accompanied by action, because I've been on campuses where people talk about planning, but nothing ever really happens.
So do you have any insight then about some big ideas that you do have for the future of campus that you can let us know about?
Well, some of them are in place now, or they're quickly developing. Things like the new engineering program for undergraduates, which when I first brought it up, there wasn't an immediate, oh yes, that's what we've been waiting for someone to do engineering. It wasn't something that I more or less had to create a real interest in engineering. And the more we talked about it, the more people understood why I was thinking about engineering and why it would be a good fit for the university. So that's one example. Obviously, this spring we're going to graduate our first Doctor of Physical Therapy students. That's one of the reasons why I wanted us to change our name, even though I never came here thinking that Jamestown College should become the University of Jamestown. We had reached a point where we knew that our future was going to be more dependent on graduate education being added to our complement of strong undergraduate programs, and I just felt it's time, let's do it now and grow into it. And that's gradually what's happening. We're growing into it not only with DPT, but with an MA in leadership, an MS in counseling, addiction counseling. We've had and now have revived and strengthened a master's in education. There's just a lot happening that requires us to be a university now, in addition to our historic role as a college.
A lot of changes coming.
Yeah, it's an unusual level of change and growth. It's gone, so far, there's no wood here, or I would knock on wood. It's gone extremely well to this point.
Well, that's good. We were talking about duties earlier. This is just probably a personal thing for me, but I swear I see you everywhere. What are all of the events that you go to?
That's why you don't want to have assigned duties, because then you're free to go to whatever you want to go to. And that's what I try to do. I try to be there for the students. I've always had a commitment to that. Sometimes it's more Herculean than other times. Like I'm planning, Donna and I are going to Scotland. We want to be there for the first band performance in Europe. It's a historic moment. We've seen the choir in Hong Kong. We've traveled with the basketball teams around all over the place, with the football team. We really believe that students need that visible support from the president, and that's something we really try to do. It's been a conscious part of our plan since we came here.
Well, we deeply appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Not to mention the arts, of course. I always try to get to all the arts events that I can. And so I just think that's important. I think this is a school that emphasizes participation. And if the administration can't place value on that to the point that they're supportive, if the faculty don't support the students, if the community doesn't support the students, then it's just lip service to talk about participation. We're all very involved, and we really want to see our students do well.
We've loved having you around. I love seeing your face at the certain theater performances that I have. Since you have been so involved on campus, and we know that, do you do anything for the community? Like, are you involved in community events, help out?
Well, I have over the years. I've been very active in things like the Chamber of Commerce. I'm a past chair of the Chamber of Commerce board. I was vice chair of the hospital board for a number of years here in Jamestown. I've done all kinds of appearances and just tried to be as helpful as possible. Some things are very small and some things maybe take more of my time, but yes, I'm very involved. And Donna, we think of ourselves as a team here. I'm probably more visible on campus. She's much more involved in the community than I am. And especially at places like Ann Carlson and the Safe Shelter, where she's been very active. She volunteers every day at Ann Carlson. She's had therapy dogs since we came here. And she and some of the time when we had 2 dogs, we would both work together at places like Ann Carlson. So those are things that, we feel a real commitment to as a couple here in this place. We try to give back that way.
Thank you. Now, a very important question for you. This is high level of importance. What does it mean to be a Jimmie to you?
I was talking the other day with my staff about the fact that I think the one thing that we have not capitalized on when you look at all the possibilities that history has presented us with, and you look at those things and you say, well, here are traditions and facts. Which ones are we really capitalizing on? Which ones are we really developing? And then what's the most glaring deficiency? And I said, to me, the most glaring deficiency is that at commencement next week, we're going to be naming several students as representative Jimmies. Most of our students don't even know there is such a thing as a representative Jimmie until they're in their senior year, and then they have a vote to pick the students who embody Jimminess, the values of being a Jimmie. And I said to the staff, there's tremendous power in that, and we are not tapping into it. We are not, and we should. We have to find a way to make that something that incoming students can understand and think about during the 4 years that they're here, not just turn it into an award at the end. So for me, it's about the values of being a Jimmie. And what does that mean? That you're fully engaged in your community, you're participating across the board, you're a caring member of the community, you're a person who is going to work hard, you're going to have a work ethic that will make you marketable when you're done with school, no matter what your major is. Those are the kinds of things, we're a character and faith-building institution, and that's all part of what it means to be a Jimmie. Good character comes first, along with faith. Those 2 things to me are inextricably tied together in what I would call Jimmiehood.
Well, that is by far the deepest answer that we have ever had to that question. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I've thought about it a lot. It's not something anybody else could ever repeat, probably, but I do believe that.
Well, we have one final question for you, and then we're going to sign off. And it's a very important question to me. I ask everyone on our show. What is your favorite color and why?
Orange, because when you see orange, you know that there's a Jimmie on board somewhere.
Very quick. You did not hesitate on that answer.
Yeah,
love it.
It didn't used to be my favorite color. It became my favorite color when I came to Jamestown.
Well, thank you so much, Bob. It's been wonderful getting to interview you. And please like, share, subscribe, and comment, and we will see you again next year.